At the big board, can you help us out with where this race stands right now, perhaps?
Yeah, well, I think there's two ways of looking at it, and one is, I do this all the time. We get a new national poll out. Warren, maybe she's 3 points ahead of Biden. Maybe Biden's still ahead of Warren, and Sanders is in third, and nobody else is popping. And that is the story we've been telling nationally in this race. But, of course, there is no national primary. We have a series of individual state contests, and all the action begins in Iowa with those caucuses, and whatever happens in those caucuses, whoever wins, whoever loses, has such a big effect on what happens from there. So with that in mind, the latest polling out of Iowa, this is just a couple of days old, check this out. It looks a little different than what you see nationally. You have Biden, Warren, and Sanders, a virtual three-way tie for first place in the leadoff state. And by the way, there is somebody else who's popping in Iowa. You've already mentioned his name. He got a lot of attention tonight on that debate stage. Pete Buttigieg is within single digits from the lead in Iowa right now, 14%. Remember, Iowa, one of those states where, I think in this age of media politics, social media politics, retail politics can still get you somewhere in Iowa. These candidates can camp out there, go to these small town hall events. They can get some traction that way. So Buttigieg is 7 points behind Sanders, 8 points behind Biden and Warren. And again, you think of the past models here, the candidates who maybe haven't been popping nationally, who've broken through in Iowa. I'm thinking of John Kerry back in 2004. If you looked at a poll in Iowa, just nationally, just a couple of days before Iowa, Kerry was nowhere to be found. He won the Iowa caucuses. Everything else fell into place. And you can see four candidates right now who are certainly within contention when it comes to Iowa. See what happens to Biden out there after tonight. Warren after she came under attack tonight. Sanders with that big news at the end of the debate that AOC is going to endorse him. And as I say, Buttigieg, even before tonight, already in contention in Iowa.
That is a lot, Steve, because when you put it the other way, he's 7 points out of the lead in Iowa.
Yep.
Huge number for him. And, you were the first to say he had a good outing.
He had a good outing, and I think it's more the dynamic that Chris Hayes and others are raising that we'll be talking about. If Elizabeth Warren is the nominee, might she look to someone who sort of speaks to that centrist angst, that desire to have someone that sort of animates and excites the base of the party, but also speaks. And not that Elizabeth Warren isn't doing well across the country. She has regional support, but there is, I pick up some angst in Democratic circles that she might alienate some moderates.
And I want to, before we do that, I have to talk about Beto O'Rourke.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have this.
You and I have thought about him.
We have an exchange queued up that we will discuss after we play it. Here it is.
I don't need lessons from you on courage, political or personal. Everyone on this stage is determined to get something done. Everyone on this stage recognizes, or at least I thought we did, that the problem is not other Democrats who don't agree with your particular idea of how to handle this. The problem is the National Rifle Association and their enablers in Congress, and we should be united in taking the fight to them.
So Beto O'Rourke, 2 to 3% player. The problem he has with the party is at the last debate, he gave the GOP their campaign attack ad by saying, yes, we in fact are coming to confiscate your guns. Tonight, he went a step further and said, in effect, an AR-15 lawfully purchased in an open carry state should have the ability to walk up to that person carrying openly and take the weapon right then and there. Because, after all, what could go wrong?
Well, that's one analysis that is fair. I think the other side is that Beto O'Rourke's still on that stage because after El Paso and after the second mass shooting of the summer in his state, he was seen as channeling the rage and this feeling that we as a country are hunted by automatic weapons.
No one doubts.
I think the two sides of the and I think the two sides of the Beto coin is part of the reason he's on the stage is because he speaks to the anguish of every mom who sends their baby to school at 3 years old and has to go to an active shooter drill. So a lot of us are willing to sort of not rule out the politicians that speak to that rage and that exasperation with the gun debate. But I think the other side of it, as you said, is a very rational and probably correct analysis of where his position puts him and puts the party.
And that was the Buttigieg position, Karine. We got to win this at the end of the day.
So it's really interesting because I was clearly listening to you guys talk about Pete Buttigieg and looking at the polling. And the way that I see Pete Buttigieg is something that is very common in the Democratic Party. party, and we've seen it in the past, which is we always see a young, fresh face, you know, kind of come up from the party and usually become the nominee. I'm not saying he's going to be the nominee, but if you think about Clinton, if you think about Carter, if you think about Obama, and so I wonder if that's what's happening. I wonder if voters are thinking, wow, you know, this is someone new, this is an outsider, he's bringing something different to this primary, and so that's kind of how I see the Buttigieg playing in this space.
I wonder, though, if he is to be in that outsider, something different role. Do you have to have rougher edges than Pete Buttigieg? Do you have to, because you know he speaks in entire, fully formed paragraphs, and he speaks in language that is always designed to, you know, to encompass people, not to offend people, to bring people along with it.
I think he's tough. I think the paragraphs are so perfectly crafted, and I think people are tired of the Twitter president.
No, absolutely. But I just wonder if when people say they want authenticity these days, do they want something rougher and messier and less well-formed? I don't know the answer to that, but
we have to mention that